By Israeli government spokesperson Eylon Levy. Thank you for making time to come on. A source telling us now that full cabinet, as we know, is meeting to discuss this hostage deal, which Becky Anderson just laid out. My colleague Alex Marquardt reporting that the ball is really in Israel's court now. Where do things stand right now?
That's right. The government of Israel is meeting at this hour to discuss the proposal after it was discussed by the War Cabinet and by the Security Cabinet. If and when the government approves that deal, there will be a 24-hour period in which families of victims of the terrorists who may be released as part of that deal are able to apply to the Supreme Court. There is a measure of judicial review here. And then we very much hope that we will be able to begin to bring hostages home. You know, it's been nearly 50 days. No one's been sleeping in this country. We can't begin to imagine what a 3-year-old girl whose father was murdered in front of her has been going through. Over 50 days as a Hamas hostage in a tunnel. Has she seen daylight? Who's feeding her? Who's washing her? Who's bathing her? Who's been hugging her? Who's been playing with her? So we want to bring them back. We hope to bring them back. And we hope to continue, and we plan to continue until we bring all 240 hostages home. You were reporting there the number of 50. Let's remember that's only a fifth of the total hostages inside the Gaza Strip. And this war will end with us bringing all of our hostages home and removing Hamas from power so it can never abduct our people again.
And I just want to clarify what you just said. I want to make sure I'm understanding it properly. You're saying that if the cabinet agrees to this deal, then there would be 24 hours in which it could go to the Supreme Court there. And then after 24 hours is when we could potentially see some movement. Am I getting that right?
Correct, because we are talking about prisoners who have been convicted on terrorism charges, not directly on charges of murder, but on terrorism charges. And there are families in Israel who have lost loved ones because of those acts of terrorism, and they have the right to appeal to the Supreme Court against the release of those prisoners. We hope that as and when those hurdles are overcome, we'll be able to bring our hostages home. And then we'll be able to continue putting more pressure on Hamas in order to get the rest of them out. Let's remember, this isn't happening because Hamas has suddenly decided to be nice humanitarians or Boy Scouts. It's happening because we've been putting unrelenting military pressure on Hamas. Hamas has been begging for a breather because it's getting clobbered. And it's that military pressure that has brought it to a position where it's willing to release some of the people it abducted on October 7th.
And on that note, if this deal is approved, it's likely going to include this 4 to 5 day pause in the fighting. Do you think that, I know you all are saying you want to go and further these discussions to free more of these hostages. Do you think that sort of pause will become standard for releasing future hostages or future releases? And how will the IDF manage through this? You all have said it could give Hamas a chance to restock, reload for potential future attacks.
I think let's wait until the government passes that decision, if it votes to do so, and then we will be able to make proper announcements when decisions are made and fill you in on the details. At the moment, this is still a proposal that is under discussion. Nothing has been officially announced just yet. And we hope that after we bring hostages home, we'll continue putting pressure on Hamas, because that is the only thing that is going to convince the terror organization that burned, beheaded, tortured, mutilated, and raped so many people on the 7th of October to release hostages, not because they suddenly have pangs of conscience, not because they suddenly realize that it is evil to hold a 10-month-old baby hostage, but because of pressure, because they'll beg for another breather. And we're going to continue putting more pressure on Hamas until it releases everyone.
I want to talk about these hostage families. My colleague Matthew Chance just interviewing a mother there who's waiting for word. Her 13-year-old daughter has been taken hostage. Her 16-year-old son was killed. A lot of these families have told us and said publicly that they have not gotten any, very little, if any, exchange with the government. They have not been kept abreast of many developments. And some of them are angry at that lack of communication from the government. I know that a group of them met with the Prime Minister yesterday, but it was the first time for a lot of them that they were meeting with him. Why hasn't there been more communication with these families that are so desperate for information?
First of all, they're absolutely right to be angry. They're absolutely right to be furious with the failure on October 7th that allowed their loved ones to be abducted. This was a crisis that overwhelmed the state of Israel. Israel didn't have institutions in place, contingencies for what to do if Hamas murders 1,200 people in a day, what to do if Hamas abducts over 240 people into the Gaza Strip. Those systems were not in place, and that's a system that Israel has been trying to put together on the move as we literally pick up the pieces and the body parts from the October 7th massacre. All our hearts are with those families. We embrace them. We hope that soon we'll be able to bring them good news. And we know that it's going to be the start of a very long process for those people who come out of the Gaza Strip, who are going to be severely traumatized. We're hoping that they are healthy and safe, but of course, we know nothing about their condition because Hamas has refused to give them access to the Red Cross. And once we bring them back home, it's going to be the beginning of a very long rehabilitation process. And we hope and we expect the state is going to be there to support them in the very difficult road ahead.
I hear you, but to the families that are watching that haven't heard from you or have a hard time getting information, can you pledge to them there will be more information going forward as you all go through this process?
We are constantly working day by day in order to improve the flow of information, the lines of communication, and I hope that and expect that we will continue doing that and do everything we can to bring the hostages home and to offer all the support that those families need and that they deserve.
All right, Eylon Levy for us. Thank you so much for making